Yeah, you may not stand there. Barbara, thank you for inviting me tonight. Thank you for coming. I'm not going to recommend that you buy my book, because most of you may have bought the last one, which is 1,500 pages. This is only 500, but really you've already done enough. I thought I might begin, however, by quoting a small bit of this book, which is actually just a selection of long articles over the last years in The Independent, not necessarily about the Middle East, although Iraq is there and Afghanistan is there. It's also about Armenia, it's about the mass graves of the Titanic victims in Halifax, Nova Scotia. It's about cliches in journalism, something close to my heart. It's about cinema, all my pet obsessions, in fact. But I thought, because it's very much on the theme I want to talk to you about tonight, I'd begin with an article I wrote, which in fact was called The Age of the Warrior, which I chose as the title of my book, and you'll realise why in a moment. Because I want to talk, as I often do, about words and the desemanticization of conflict. I may say a few things which some of you have heard before, which I want to say because others would not, and because I cannot decide each one of you who has heard me speak before in Berkeley, probably quite a lot. Either way, I want to begin by reading an article which I wrote, well, 2006, actually before I was last here. It's titled The Age of the Warrior, which is the title of the book. In the week that George Bush took to fantasizing that his blood-soaked war on terror would lead the 21st century into a shining age of human liberty. Remember that? I went through my mailbag to find a frightening letter addressed to me by an American veteran whose son is serving as a lieutenant colonel and medical doctor with US forces in Baghdad. He's just come home safely, by the way. Put simply, my American friend believes that the change of military creed under the Bush administration, from that of soldier to that of warrior, is encouraging American troops to commit atrocities. From Abu Ghraib to Guantanamo to Bagram, to the battlefields of Iraq and to the black prisons of the CIA, humiliation and beatings, rape and anal rape and murder have now become so commonplace that each new outrage is creeping into the inside pages of our newspapers. My reporting notebooks are full of Afghan and Iraqi complaints of torture and beatings from August 2002 and then from 2003 to the present. How, I keep asking myself, did this happen? Obviously, the trail leads to the top. But where did this cult of cruelty begin? So first, here's the official US Army Soldier's Creed, originally drawn up to prevent any more Vietnam atrocities. In fact, it was written after My Lai. And after this, every US serviceman, wherever he was in the world, carried this document. I am an American soldier. I am a member of the United States Army, a protector of the greatest nation on earth. Because I'm proud of the uniform I wear, I will always act in ways creditable to the military service and the nation that it is sworn to guard. No matter what situation I am in, I will never do anything for pleasure, profit or personal safety which will disgrace my uniform, my unit or my country. I will use every means I have, even beyond the line of duty, to restrain my army comrades from actions disgraceful to themselves and the uniform. I am proud of my country and its flag. I will try to make the people of this nation proud of the service I represent, for I am an American soldier. I think that's pretty eloquent. I've got nothing against that. And here's the new version, however, of what is now called the warrior ethos, introduced by Donald Rumsfeld, which American servicemen now carry with them. I am an American soldier. I am a warrior and a member of a team. I serve the people of the United States and I live the Army values. I will always place the mission first. I will never accept defeat. I will never quit. I will never leave a fallen comrade. I am disciplined, physically and mentally tough, trained and proficient in my warrior tasks and drills. I always maintain my arms, my equipment on myself. I am an expert and I am a professional. I stand ready to deploy, engage and destroy the enemies of the United States of America in close combat. I am a guardian of freedom and the American way of life. I am an American soldier. Like most Europeans and an awful lot of you, I was quite unaware of this new and ferocious code for US Armed Forces, although it's not hard to see how it fits in with Bush's rantings. I'm tempted to point this out in detail, but my very American Vietnam veteran did so with such eloquence in his letter to me that the response should come in his words. "The warrior creed," he wrote, allows no end to any conflict except total destruction of the enemy. It allows no defeat and does not allow one ever to stop fighting, lending itself to the idea of the long war. It says nothing about following orders. It says nothing about obeying laws or showing restraint. It says nothing about dishonorable actions. Ladies and gentlemen, I believe that that warrior ethos, that document, paves the road to Bagram and Kandahar prison and to Guantanamo and the black underground prisons, which we know are also existing in Europe. That is the road to torture. In this way, I believe that your armed forces have been demeaned. And it came from the top. This came from the Pentagon. This was not just a few bad apples. The strange thing, you know, about the whole Abu Ghraib scandal was that when the pictures first came out, and God bless Seymour Hersh, one of the few great American journalists, for exposing even the pictures as well as the text. When those pictures first came out, the Pentagon tried to put considerable pressure on the American media not to disseminate the pictures in a very wide way. And the purpose of this appeal was that if many people saw these pictures, Iraqis might come to hate American troops in Iraq. And I was in Baghdad when those pictures were published, and the warning was quite unnecessary. The Iraqis had no reaction at all because they knew torture was going on in Iraq. They were tortured themselves. They had been telling my colleague Patrick Cogan and I about torture for years. We have been printing reports of this torture. I have, even within 2 to 3 months of the invasion being completed in 2003, I was writing reports in my newspaper, The Independent, of people being beaten in captivity. One man told me how he was beaten with a filled plastic water bottle, and when the bottle broke, they went on beating with the sharp edges of the plastic on his body. Very mild compared to Abu Ghraib. We were printing this, but of course we had no photographs, and we had the Americans denying that any kind of abuse ever took place. So it was there. The Iraqis knew this was going on. They assumed that we would torture them, and we did. It was we who were surprised by the torture at Abu Ghraib. It was we, the Westerners, in our precious society, that were shocked to find what we did. And you see, I think that in many ways, we journalists are responsible for your ignorance. I don't think you're ignorant people. I think Americans are very smart people, by the way. You know, people keep saying, oh, many people in America have so little information. But when I take a train, like I did not long ago, from an Amtrak train from Washington to Georgia, I couldn't sleep at night. I talked to the train crew. They knew all about the Middle East. They understood the situation of the Palestinians under occupation and so on. It is somewhere between the people and the administration that there is a gap. You know, I don't use the internet, which I loathe, and I don't use email, so I get real mail. Remember those envelopes with stamps on? About 250 to 300 a week. And sometimes more than half of them are coming from the United States. But the letters from America and the letters from Britain have one common theme. And they're coming from ordinary people, sometimes from people in the military, British as well as American, but mostly just from civilians, sometimes middle-aged people, pensioners. And they're all saying there's a problem we have. We elect our member of parliament, or you elect your congressman or congresswoman. But when they go to the Hill, or when our MPs go to the British Parliament, they no longer represent us. We vote for them, but the moment they've got the vote, the elector and the elected break apart. The person who is elected no longer represents the people who elected them. And this break in governance is a major problem at the moment. Over and over again, I get letters from readers, particularly in Britain in this case, what can we do? So, you know, a woman says to me, I told my MP what I think about Iraq, and he goes to Parliament and supports the government. And I don't know what you do about that, but it is a major problem, and I see it coming from readers of my newspaper, and from you in this country too. I don't know how you do it, it's not my job, I'm not an activist, I'm a journalist, but I see the problem out there.